Welcome to weekly Q&A, and my name is Athena. This is the global community for adult survivors of childhood trauma. If you are living with CPTSD symptoms, dissociation, anxiety, PTSD, flashbacks, these things are causing you some discomfort in your life with your interpersonal relationships or the relationship with your family or your children or with your job or with your finances or with your physical health. You're dealing with some things regarding your physical health, all possibly stemming from childhood trauma, perhaps early childhood neglect, early childhood abuse. Those are the things we're going to be discussing today. And we are going to also be discussing specifically dissociation, and there are some positives to dissociation. There are pros and cons to dissociation as per the APA and as dissociation is mentioned in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5th edition, the DSA practitioner. I am a person who shows up here and shares my 17, 18-year healing journey, research I have done, and share this journey with you. I'm healing right alongside you. I'm showing up here from a lived experience perspective, and these videos are never a substitute for professional medical care or mental health care. They're right now in the chat box. If you're here live, or if you're even here on a replay, the chat box, there is one of our amazing volunteers. Special thank you to Poppy, and also special thank you to Matt, and for all of you who show up every week to support one another. There is some crisis information in the chat box right now. If you are in crisis, this is never a place to come when you're in crisis. You deserve to receive crisis care. And I'm working with some wonderful people in the mental health community who have something called a warm line. It's not necessarily a hotline for if you happen to be in crisis, but maybe you just need some compassionate support or you need to ask a couple of questions. I'll be figuring out some ways to share that information with you really, really soon. And I'm also in the research I've been doing on attachment trauma, I've found a questionnaire that's used with many psychiatrists and psychologists in something that we could read through, and just to be better equipped to know and get in touch with our own body and our own healing journey and the way that we tick and how we show up in the world and ways that we can feel better on a daily basis. So those are all some things that we're going to unpack. I just want to thank you for spending some time with us here tonight. All of the videos on this channel, or almost all of them, are rather long because they are live question and answer. We show up here, we answer your questions, we share information. There's a psychoeducational aspect to the videos, but for the most part, everyone shows up here to support one another. So please support one another. Please receive support and give support in the chat box and also in the comments below. If you're here live, it would be amazing if you find this video helpful, if you would give it a thumbs up, or if it wasn't helpful, you can vote thumbs down. But wait till the end at least. Like, don't judge that it's a thumbs down video until you get to the end and find out if it was helpful. And if you are here on a replay, please put your questions or say hello or any comments or suggestions you might have down in the comments section after the video is already recorded. Perhaps you're here at 3 in the morning on a random Wednesday 5 years from now. I'm glad you're here. So if you want to get plugged into free support groups on Facebook, please email my assistant Lisa at cptsdfoundation.org. And if you're interested in taking part in the daily recovery support calls, it's a membership that we have in the mental health community where you have access to an entire archive and library of chat transcripts and 45-minute calls. Some of them with screen shares, video capability, some of them audio, and you get access to all of that for $50 a month. So if that's something you're interested in, there should be a link down in the description section of this video. Otherwise, I'll just continue showing up here every Monday and we'll just hang out. And obviously this is always free. So whoever you are, and whether this is your first time here, or if you are here and you've been here for 4 years when we started this channel 4 years ago, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here. So tonight's topic of dissociation it might be triggering, so I'm just going to issue a trigger warning. And if you are triggered, again, step away from the video, press pause, come back another time, get the care that you deserve. So I took a screenshot of some helpful aspects of dissociation and how dissociation may have been an adaptive coping strategy or a helpful coping strategy when we were younger. And it compares and contrasts it with the less helpful or maladaptive aspects of dissociation and how it shows up in our adult life, some things that we might want to be on the lookout for. So the pros versus the cons. So I'm going to be sharing that with you. But first, if you want, you have questions regarding dissociation as a result of early childhood trauma, attachment trauma. Last week, we discussed attachment styles and the different types of attachment styles, and then I answered some of your questions. Harriet, if you could pop up a link to the video last week for if anybody's interested in watching the one from last week. It's on a similar topic. And then we also have other videos that were recorded like 3 or 4 years ago on the topic of dissociation. And I know that particular video is one that the audio is wrong and there's a lot of delays and it's crazy. If you're watching older videos where we're talking back and forth and trying to figure stuff out, thank you for just extending a lot of mercy and a lot of grace and a lot of patience and for not giving up on us. Thanks for sticking around all these years. For now we know a little bit more about how to make videos and how to not have them suck so bad. So I want to thank everybody who shows up here live and who's already asking questions. Let's see here. I think that was from last week. Let me see if here we go. So thank you to Shelly. Thank you to Holistic Recovery. Thank you to Heroes Don't Wear Capes, to Desi Pink. And Rhonda had asked a question before the video started. And her question kind of along the lines of dissociation because we kind of, dissociate. Well, dissociation itself is a coping strategy that helped keep us alive when there were traumatic things going on in our childhood. So Rhonda's question was, I believe it was Rhonda, or maybe it was Shannon. Was it Rhonda or Shannon? Now I'm not 100% certain. I'm going to have to go back and look in the chat box. I can't remember. Anyway, there was a question asked before the video started tonight as to why is it that we don't remember or recall our memories usually until later on in life? And it's connected to dissociation. So dissociation as a coping strategy when we're younger means that we go somewhere else because what it is that we are going through, our brain has decided to tell our body to shut down, go somewhere else. These are not the droids you're looking for. It's like, go somewhere else. This is not what you think it is. Nope, everything's fine. Everything's fine here. Carry on. We're good. Just go over there for a minute. We got this. And so then we endure the trauma, whatever that trauma might be, whether it's neglect, whether it's abuse, exploitation of some kind, some sort of natural disaster, earthquake, tornado, hurricane, car accident. There are lots of different traumas that we can endure as a young child. This particular YouTube channel deals a lot with early childhood abuse and neglect, usually from family of origin. And so we go somewhere else as a means of staying alive. Because if we dealt with not only the reality of what was happening in the moment, but the implication of the fact that we're stuck with these people for a really long time, maybe 18 years, that's not something that we would be able to survive through. Because if that person is scary and horrible, and they're doing horrible things to me, and they're making me feel horrible, and I'm somehow going to be around this person for a really long time, how am I going to survive that? So we would surely die. So therefore we dissociate, we go somewhere else. That is very layman's terms of what it is that goes on with dissociation. Obviously, it's very technical. The topic itself is very, very deep, which is why we're covering it on multiple weeks. And we could probably have a series on the topic of dissociation for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And we might, depending on the feedback that I get from you guys. I love getting emails from you. Again, if you want to get plugged into a free group, email lisa@cptsdfoundation.org. If you want to email me and ask me questions and give me feedback about topics that you want to hear about, you can email me, at cptsdfoundation.org. My name's Athena, Athena. And I would love to answer your questions. I'll probably bring them up here live on video. That's the most effective way for me to spend my time answering questions so everyone can benefit from the questions you ask. And if you want me to leave it anonymous, I'm happy to leave those questions anonymous. I won't mention your name. So basically, dissociation as an adaptive coping strategy when we are younger helps to keep us alive, helps us bear the weight of the pain while we are young. And then when we're older, if we are still using dissociation to cope, then that has implications that can actually seep into other areas of our life, and we can endanger our lives or the lives of others depending on the level of dissociation. So we're going to talk about that, pluses and minuses of dissociation. Really quickly, just want to check and see if there's anyone else that has all the people I already mentioned that have sent in questions. Oh, Guayanes and Marilena Diaz. Hola, ¿cómo estás, Marilena? Thank you. Muchas gracias, Marilena. Yes, I'm going to be answering that question as well. So for the next 15 minutes, if you want to send in your questions, I'm going to do a screen share. I'm going to read through the pluses and the minuses. And then at 1:30, like I do usually, I will begin answering everyone's questions. And for 30 minutes, I'm going to answer everyone's questions. So first, I'm going to do a screen share. Actually, first, I'm going to get a drink of water because I'm very thirsty. 1 second here. Okay, thanks for your patience while I'm drinking water. Let me see really, where's my glasses? You'd think I'd have them. They were right here a second ago. I found them. So, oh, they're very dirty. 1 second. Don't you love live? The thumbs downers are going to come along and then be like, this girl is clueless. Let's put a thumbs down on this video. That's why I tell you all to give these videos thumbs up, because we have to outweigh the thumbs downers that are inevitable. And I forgot to mention that every time we give a video a thumbs up on this channel, these videos pop up in other people's feed that are like recommended videos. Excuse me. And that means that more survivors of trauma get the trauma-informed care through these helpful, compassionate videos that they deserve. So I'm just going to put my glasses on super quick so that I can see. I'm just going to find really quickly that video, or not the video, the screen share. I'm going to find the screen share that I found. It's a screenshot that I took on the topic of dissociation. Pros and cons, helpful. Let me just search for dissociation. Maybe it'll pop up. I think I found it, you guys. All right. I'm good. Bring it up now. I'll share this screen with you for about 5-10 minutes max, and then I'll start answering your questions. And thanks for all the support you give one another over in the chat box. It really is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. Seriously. We've been doing these daily calls now where we have a chat transcript that you can go back and read during the calls. And some of the most amazing, beautiful things happen just in that chat box where everybody supports one another. It's just the most amazing thing. Here we go. Let me know if you guys can see this screen share. Please let me know. That would be awesome. Can y'all see that? Let me see if I can make it bigger. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Oops, too big. Here we go. Can you all see that? I hope you all can see that. Okay, so positive aspects of dissociation versus negative aspects of dissociation. And so, what I think I'd like to do, if it's all right with you, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to go down and I'd like to do all the positive aspects first. All right? We'll read through all the positive aspects first, and then we'll move over to the negative aspects of dissociation. So the question that came about before the broadcast started: why is it that we don't remember our trauma memories until later on in life? Usually, it's because our brain has decided that it is in our best interest, from a survival perspective and a functioning perspective, that we not think about, remember, or ruminate on, or put the pieces together about traumatizing things that have happened to us, because it would otherwise cause us to not be able to function at an optimum level. And so our brain makes that decision for us. And that's why a lot of women who tend to do a little bit more introspective work, they usually begin remembering some of their trauma memories from childhood in their 30s. Sometimes they're in their 20s, but usually they're in their 30s. And then most men, at least ones that have reached out to me, again, this is my own personal experience in my own private practice, they begin having their memories or recalling their memories more vividly when they are in their late 30s, early 40s. So it does have to do with dissociation. So here we go. Positive aspects of dissociation. Number one, biologically mediated and not voluntary control. What this means is that our brain, here we go, biologically, right here. Biologically, our brain decides, our brain and our body decide what is best for us and what is not best for us. And what does that mean? Why is it positive? Let's talk about this. Why is it positive if our body is making the decisions for us? If our body and our brain are making the decisions for us when we're a child? If they're the ones that are mediating, our body and our brain is making the decision, and that it's not a voluntary thing that we have a choice about. Why is that positive? One of the main reasons why that's positive is because when you're a child, you have no way of knowing what's in your best interest. And if you're a child entrusted to the care of an individual that is abusive, exploitative, or neglectful, it is likely that they are not going to voluntarily do what is in your best interest. So your body and your brain have decided that they know what's best for you, and their whole job is to keep you alive, and therefore you will dissociate. You will go somewhere else while the bad things happen so that you can continue to have a personality and develop your personality. Keep in mind that even though our bodies are the ones that are mediating this and making these choices, and we do not have voluntary control over that choice that's made over when we are going to dissociate and when we're not going to dissociate, please keep in mind that this does not rule out arrested development. Developmental trauma is huge. Developmental trauma is much more prevalent than our society would like to admit, because if we did admit it, it would implicate the parents that are not doing their jobs. And therefore, those parents would likely be in a lot of trouble, or they would be incarcerated, and therefore they would not be contributing members of society. They would have a problem with the institutions that brought about that information, and it would cause an entire shitstorm, for lack of a more appropriate phrase. So, our society prefers to look the other way. However, our body and our brain have decided that we need to survive, and we're going to stay alive, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to have arrested development. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be 40-year-olds learning how to adult when we're already adults. And can I just say right now, unedited, uncut, raw, I'm a 44-year-old woman who's already a grown-up learning how to be a grown-up. Why am I learning how to be a grown-up at age 44? Why do I not already know how to be a grown-up? Probably because I've spent a lot of my life learning how to do things that I should have been taught when I was a child, like how to brush my teeth properly, how to take care of my body properly, my hair, my clothing, learn how to balance checkbooks, bank accounts, your credit score, all these things that other parents, people I've met them personally, not just one, multiple, so I know it exists. They actually teach their children how to take care of their bodies and their minds and how to be socially apt and how to have social interactions with other human beings and how to dress and how to save an allowance and how to set up a bank account and how to get a job and how to manage interpersonal relationships. And you're having trouble with your friends. And the world's not going to end just because those kids at school are being mean to you. Let's remember, all the good things that you have about yourself, and they walk you through and they sit with you and they support you when you come home and you say that Johnny and Janie were being mean to you, or that your teacher doesn't understand you or is picking on you. A healthy parent, a parent that's fully engaged, a parent that is looking out for the best interest of the child, they go in and they speak to those teachers. They go and they talk to the parents of those other children. They intervene and they look out for your best interest. So right here, biologically mediated, your body and your brain were looking out for your best interest because someone else wasn't. Just remember that, okay? That's the first positive aspect about dissociation. That's why dissociation did us a favor. Number 2, dissociation anesthetizes, or it's just a fancy word for anesthetic, like you go under anesthesis, like an anesthesiologist, it gives you something that puts you under if you have to go into surgery. So it basically numbs you or puts you out or takes you away from or, protects you from. So it anesthetizes physical and psychic pain. What this means is dissociation takes you away from, puts you under, or numbs you from physical and psychic pain. You could be enduring horrific physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse as a child. Guess what? Dissociation, it's an anesthetic. It's pain medication for you. You go somewhere else. It's an anesthetic. That's what this word is here. Okay? That's number 2, why dissociation did us a favor when we were younger and we were living through neglect or abuse as a child. Number 3, it's a survival strategy, which we did mention in number 1. It's rather redundant. We survived because of dissociation. Just remember that, okay? Someone else that we were entrusted to, perhaps they weren't keeping an eye on us, something horrible was happening to us, abuse, neglect, horrible things we don't want to think about, talk about, or remember. We wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for dissociation. Dissociation helped us to survive, and it was an excellent survival strategy. So thank you, dissociation. That's the 3rd reason I want to thank you today. Compartmentalization. We were able to compartmentalize the horrible things that were happening to us. I have a colleague of mine, a dear friend, who certain days of the year were set aside for, ritualistic type days of the year. And on those days, the schedule was different. They weren't able to go to school on those days. These certain days of the year that were set aside for abuse, they didn't go to school on those days. They weren't able to live a life that was something that they could remain present for on those days. Certain days on the calendar, if you are a survivor of ritual abuse, certain type of cult abuse, or hey, let's just talk about the good old American family and Hallmark holidays. I was recently talking with a friend of mine, a team member, and on certain calendar days of the year, they had to stay home all day. They had to stay home all day because it was a Hallmark holiday. And that was one of the worst days of the year because they would be abused on that day more so than other days. So we are able to compartmentalize our life and go, okay, that holiday is over. Now I get to go be a kid and live life and everything's going to be fine until that day comes around again. Yay. So we stick the abuse in a compartment so that we can otherwise feel like a normal human being. Thank you, dissociation. That's the 4th reason I want to thank you today. Compartmentalization. Number 5, If we are dissociated half the time, when we are not dissociated, we're really focused. We can have very sharp focus in the here and the now. If we are dissociated and we're numbing out, or we're binge watching Netflix, or we find this YouTuber that we totally love and their voice is just like hypnotic and you just love it, or they record certain types of videos that are your favorite, or let's just say cat videos, right? Or puppy videos, kittens and puppies. Who doesn't love that? Or I love this one particular Facebook page called Dry Bar Comedy. Dry Bar Comedy. Hilarious. I will log on to Dry Bar Comedy on Facebook and I will binge watch 3 or 4 videos in a row. And I'm very focused in that moment, right? Or am I? Am I dissociating and sort of distracting myself from something that I don't want to deal with? Probably, if we're being honest right now. I'm telling you, if I'm going to deal with some stressful stuff, guess what? I'm going to go over to the Dry Bar Comedy Facebook page. And this is not sponsored, by the way. This is just something I love to do. And I will just numb out for about 5, 10, 15 minutes watching comedy videos, which is seriously one of my favorite things in the world to do. I love comedy, love to laugh. It is one of the best healing medicines ever. And then guess what I do for the remainder when I get done with doing that? And then I have to go and I have to focus on a task that I need to get done for work. I am hyper focused on my work because that was what I did. I practiced self-care in those moments. I numbed out watching Dry Bar Comedy videos. I went over, I handled my work task with laser beam focus, right? In the short term. Notice it says here in the short term. Yeah, short term. You can't do that in the long term. You can't dissociate on a regular basis and then think that you're going to be like hyper focused and like functioning at optimum levels, because dissociation doesn't help us in the long term. It only helps us in the short term. It's something that is good in small doses. So thank you, dissociation. That's the 5th reason why, and the 5th example of why I want to thank you. Only 2 more, you guys. Number 6, dissociation allows a person to get on with daily life without being overwhelmed by traumatic experiences. That's a little bit here of being, I mentioned here on how you can sharpen your focus in the short term when you're not dissociated, or you know what? Let's talk really quickly. Let's back up to number 5. I don't know how many of you, by a show of hands or by a show of thumbs up on this video, were a person that survived their childhood by different means of numbing out or remaining hyper-focused in the short term. And what I mean by this is, if I was in a traumatic or abusive situation when I was a child, I would bite my fingernails. And I was so focused on the fingernail that I was biting, because you don't want to bite your fingernail. Like, anybody else bite their fingernails? Like, anybody? I know I'm not the only one here. If you bite your fingernails just perfectly, they won't bleed. They don't look horrible, but you're so focused that you're not even aware of horrible things that are going on around you. So there's an example of being focused and dissociated at the same time. That's a perfect example of number 5. And then number 6, dissociation allows a person to get on with daily life without being overwhelmed by traumatic experiences. If I have something stressful that I'm working on, this is a good one where I could actually recommend, like how I go and I watch the Dry Bar Comedy videos. So thank you, dissociation. And then number 7, dissociation allows for a degree of functioning in everyday life. And I think that a lot of the examples we already mentioned are perfect. They sort of align with, helping us to function in everyday life. All right, now let's go over to the negative aspects of dissociation, okay? Because there are some caveats, right? There are some things that are negative about dissociation. And I'm not dissing on anyone here. I want to be real clear that I am not dissing on anyone, putting anyone down, or vilifying anyone, or making fun of anyone that happens to be living with dissociative identity disorder. Some of my very dearest friends in the entire world live with dissociation, have been previously diagnosed with multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. Some of them wrongly diagnosed, might I add, because it ended up being complex trauma, CPTSD. But I want to be real clear that we have some amazing mental health warriors and people who are heroes of mine that are part of the DID community. And if you all are into Twitter chats, you got to check out hashtag DID chat on Twitter at some point. And I don't know if you all are familiar with Aiden from Aiden Inspires. I believe he is one of the leaders of DID chat. And if you all know dissociative Jess or dis Jess, is it dis Jess? Dis Jess, dissociative Jess. I believe she's one of the co-leaders of DID chat. Both of them amazing human beings. And if you all have not subscribed to Aiden Inspires over on Facebook or followed him on Twitter, he does these amazing, beautifully curated, professionally edited, gorgeous, inspiring, just gorgeous videos. And they're all produced and put out into the world in a way that helps abuse survivors feel more empowered and more at peace and able to cope with daily life. Again, not sponsored. It's just something that I really like. So I want to put it out there into the world real quick that I'm not dissing on anyone that happens to be living with dissociation. So negative aspect number 1 of dissociation, one of the things we need to look out for. Dissociation can become a pattern. It can become addictive. And it can become a default setting, and it can become obsessive, something we do out of compulsion. Okay? We just need to be mindful of these things. I'm not sharing any of this to scare you. I'm only sharing this as something we should be mindful of. Number 2, leads to isolation, traumatic loneliness, lack of friendships, and lack of intimacy. This is something I'm intimately familiar with. I was dissociating for most of the day on a daily basis when I first started having a lot of my trauma memories during the period of time when my dad passed away, and I started having some more memories about other family members of mine. I was leading a very isolated life, and I was afraid to leave my house also. I was living with some agoraphobic tendencies because at the same time, my son had left for the military. And whenever I would leave the house, I live in a very small town. The first question out of anyone's mouth was, how is your son? How's Jordan doing? And I didn't have an answer for them. It was quite traumatic for me. So I was dealing with isolation, traumatic loneliness. I did have a lack of friendships. I didn't have anyone here where I lived in the town other than my ladies' Bible study group that I kept in touch with. I just isolated myself off from the whole world. And a lack of intimacy. I got to tell you, I pulled away from my husband. I pulled away from him. I didn't feel safe in my own body. I was struggling to be able to tolerate being fully present in my own body because of body memories that I was having from my abuse and exploitation. And it really took a toll on the level of intimacy that I have with my husband. I'm not only discussing sexual intimacy. I'm talking any type of intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, any type of intimacy. Dissociation can take its toll on that. So just be mindful of these things. Again, not trying to scare you. We're just giving a nod to the things that we need to be mindful of. All right. And DBT skills is something that really helps with dissociation and helps us to be mindful of things that are going on. So take some screenshots of this stuff, you guys. Rewind the video like afterwards and like take some screenshots of things that might be helpful for you. And I'll shrink this down and you can screenshot the whole thing if you'd like. Number 3, the third reason why we need to watch out for dissociation, our relationships can suffer. And the reason our relationships suffer is because we're not emotionally present. We're checked out. We might just be in another place. Or sometimes my husband will be talking with me and I'll have to, I don't have as much shame now surrounding this because I've explained to him what dissociation is and what part it plays in my life and how often it shows up. But I had to be very honest with him and tell him, I'm so sorry. Could you back up and repeat what it is that you said? I don't think I was here. I must have been somewhere else. I'm not sure where I was, but I wasn't here. Could you please repeat that? Because I'm just not present, Sometimes I'm just not present. And I used to have a tremendous amount of shame around that. But now I don't. Now I'm just like, you know what? This is my life. I am healing from childhood trauma, and sometimes it sucks, but I'm dealing with it. The fourth reason we need to be mindful of dissociation and just be on the lookout is dissociation can lead to imaginary or unrealistic and dichotomous thinking and unrealistic expectations. So this word here, dichotomous, it's from the, I don't know what the root word is, probably from like Latin or something, dichotomy. There's probably even a shorter root word like dichotomous or something like that. Like, I don't know what the root word is, but dichotomy is when you are struggling with conflicting feelings or emotions, and you think one thing, but you think something that isn't really the real thing that's going on. There's a dichotomy there. So imaginary and unrealistic thinking. If you're using magical thinking, it's the thinking of a child. You know, if you're using words like always or never or all or nothing, or if you are finding yourself dissociating on a regular basis where you spend, you know, a lot of time fantasizing or living in a fantasy world, or sorry, that was my sister-in-law. I don't think she knows that I'm recording right now. I need to give her a call back. If you guys are listening and my phone was ringing, I hope it didn't cut off the video. But yeah, our imaginary thinking, our unrealistic thinking, our dichotomous thinking, and us having unrealistic expectations. If we're spending a lot of time dissociated, living in an imaginary place, then we begin to come out of that dissociative episode with unrealistic expectations for our real life um, relationships that are apart from the imaginary place that we were in. And that can take its toll on the relationship. So we need to be really mindful of that. Just be aware of it. I'm not trying to freak you out. Just be aware of it. The fifth reason we need to be mindful and just glance at this and just, you know, check ourselves regarding dissociation is that dissociation reduces our attention span and it impedes our learning. So many of us may have been diagnosed with a learning disability when we were younger. Perhaps that was legit. Perhaps we struggle with some dyslexic tendencies and we transpose numbers and letters and so forth. That's fine. Perhaps we, you know, we were given some sort of pills, or, you know, we were told that we needed to be taking Adderall or Ritalin, or we had ADD, we have ADHD, whatever. You know, not all the time is that diagnosis that we've received or that someone's trying to pin on us, not all the time is that legit. It is quite possible that we're not ADD, ADHD, or dyslexic. It's possible that we're traumatized and that as a result of our trauma, we dissociate. So I just want to just throw that out there. But at the same time, we do need to just check ourselves, right? If we're dissociating too often, it can reduce our attention span. We can, regardless of whether or not the diagnosis is correct or not, if we're dissociating often enough, our attention span suffers, our learning suffers. So let's just, you know, do a little inventory. You know, are we struggling with our attention span? Are we struggling with learning? Are we struggling with, you know, having unrealistic expectations or imaginary thinking, or we're not present, or we don't have friendships, or we're very lonely, we don't leave the house, we isolate it a lot. We're, you know, we're intentionally dissociating on purpose because we can't deal with the real world, and it's our default setting to just dissociate and go somewhere else, and we're doing it obsessively. Like, it's important that we check ourselves, right? Because number 6, this is not something that any of us want. Dissociation can limit change and growth. And I know a lot of you that are here right now watching this video. I've gotten an opportunity to know quite a few of you personally. We email back and forth. We keep in touch. We've met up in person. I've traveled to certain places and you've taken a road trip to meet up with me. And I know that if you're here watching this video, you have a desire to learn and grow. You're here because of personal growth. You are excited to learn and grow and become more adept at healing and dealing with what's going on, and you want to learn to bear the weight of the pain of this healing journey skillfully, and you want to grow and you want to help other people. So let's be mindful of dissociation, because it can definitely limit change and it can limit our ability to grow. And lastly, and this is worst case scenario, dissociation can endanger our personal safety, endanger the safety of children, the safety of pets, or those that we are entrusted to, our children or other people's kids or other human beings, others, any others. If we are in a dissociative state, that means we're not fully present, and that means that we're not alert. And if a dissociative episode comes on and we're in a car, our personal safety and the safety of children and other humans and animals can be in danger. And so we just need to make sure that we're mindful of that. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I'm super excited to answer your questions now that you put into the chat box. And I have them here. And let's see. All right. These are great questions. I can already tell that we might need to go on to third week, which is fine. I come here every Monday. So if we have to go into next week with some of this, then we do. So Shelley says, with regards to childhood suppressed abuse memories, how do I deal with all of the anxiety and depression remembering the memories brings up? I'm doing trauma narrative therapy. I feel like I'm just a royal mess since I started this 12-week course. I'm just a mess. I'm not coping well at all. So the first thing I would say to you, Shelley, is well done for trying. You want to heal. You're here because you want to learn and grow, and that's amazing, and I'm proud of you. Let me just sit back in my chair and sort of relax a little bit. I was like right up in your face. Some of you all watch me on television and you take pictures of it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're like that. I'm like, 5 feet tall. My face is 5 feet tall, rather. So first of all, Shelley, suppressed childhood abuse memories can be so painful that they knock us down and like level us out for days or weeks at a time. So recalling childhood abuse memories that have been suppressed for a long period of time, if we don't do that with a trauma-informed practitioner, like therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, I think one of the blanket statements I will throw out there, besides the fact that these are never a replacement for professional medical care or mental health care, you guys already know that, but what I will throw out there is we need to make sure that we have a team. We need to make sure that we have the person that we are working with the memories with, this person that's our doctor or our practitioner. And we also need to have like other people that are safe people that we can sort of reach out to and just touch base with, have several touch points throughout the week. We can't have our therapy appointment be the only time that we allow ourselves to go there, because it'll take us longer to heal, because we'll be leveled out and it will be so painful. And I'm a royal mess too when I do this stuff. I don't know if you all are in any of our safe groups or you follow me on other social media platforms, but I was doing EMDR debriefs for about, a few months. Every week I did an EMDR debrief. And there are some of those videos where I'm just like going like this. And I'm trying to find a word. I'm trying to find the word to like share the debrief video with you guys. And I'm just EMDR brain. I mean, it's just when you're dealing with trauma processing and reprocessing, it can take a lot out of you, and it can be very triggering, and it can feel very overwhelming. And so the thing that helped me the most, Shelley, is that I not only have my trauma-informed practitioner, but I also have colleagues or friends that are safe people. And I have a coach, and then I've confided with my husband, and then I have other, people in our free groups. Those are great places to be able to have a touch point throughout the week as well. They're not trauma therapy, they're just peer support groups. But peer support is some of the most powerful support you'll ever receive, because other people help to normalize your human experience and navigate the waters of your pain and bear the weight of your pain skillfully, because you're not doing it alone and you don't feel so isolated. So at first glance, I would say be patient with yourself first, and then make sure you have several touch points throughout the week. Don't try to do this 12-week course on your own. Like, I'm going to bear the weight of the pain of the world on my shoulders, and I'm going to do it alone, and I'm going to do it, and it's going to be me, me, myself, and I, and then my trauma therapist. Like, it doesn't serve us to be the only person that knows what's going on with us. It doesn't serve us, even though isolation and fear and trauma tell us that no one's going to understand and that we need to protect ourselves. It's this counterintuitive thing when we let other people in, whether it's in if it's in a support group, like a free group on Facebook, or if it's in the daily calls that we do. If you're interested in the daily calls, go to cptsdfoundation.org and look for the thing that says daily calls, whether it's the free groups, or whether it's on the calls, or whether it's a colleague or a friend or a sister or a cousin, or, someone. You got to have something. Like, you got to have not just you and your trauma therapist. It's important to have like boom, 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 like layers of things that you have to help you process. Okay? Because then it's not just you, and it's not so re-traumatizing. Because remembering memories, can re-traumatize us, right? And anytime we re-experience trauma, it takes us back to the anchor trauma, and we move through it again until we've moved through it and not over it, under it, or around it, because the only way out is through. So sometimes we will divert our attention or dissociate our way through things, and then we didn't really work through it. We just sort of dissociated our way through it. And so unless we're mindfully going through and just listening to our body and only doing what's safe to our body, then it's going to take us longer to heal. So I hope that was helpful. Like, you guys, we can heal. I'm telling you, we can heal. I'm not special. I am not a special snowflake. I've been through some friggin' trauma, but I'm telling you, I'm figuring out a way to heal, and I'm not doing it alone, because I can't do it alone. I tried. I tried doing it alone, right? For like over 10 years. It doesn't work. The first 6 years, I really tried to do it alone. Talk about a wasted 6 years. If I could get that 6 years back right now, oh my goodness, you guys. And then the next few years, I just sort of was baby stepping it. Actually, the next 5 years. So the first 6 years I was alone. The next 5 years I was just kind of like, I had other people involved. I had a really core group of ladies, and it was wonderful. But I was receiving some very re-traumatizing messages from people that were, around me. And I'd say the most healing rest of the time has been the last 7 years. The last 7 years I've really been healing a lot. I'd say the deepest healing has probably been over the last 4 years since we started the channel, because something magical and amazing happens when a whole bunch of people show up, and just the shackles of shame fall to the ground. And when shame isn't holding you back, it's interesting how much faster we heal, right? So I hope that was helpful. Holistic Recovery says, how can we stick with feeling and not escaping into dissociating? Into dissociating. So how can we stick with it? So I would say the way to stick with it is to listen to your body and just do like different mindfulness practices. There's some meditation, there's grounding. If you Google the word, go on YouTube and just type in the word grounding. There's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What are 5 things I can see? What are 4 things I can hear? What are 3 things that I can touch? What are 2 things I can smell and 1 thing I can taste? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom, just like that. And then you're like in your body, and then you want to just stick with something. And then journaling really, 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 really helps as well. But it might not feel safe to you to stick with it. You might need to dissociate a little bit. So dissociation, like I said, isn't all bad. We did the pros and the cons. It can definitely help us in a lot of ways. So I think being able to stick with the feeling, it's really key to have others around you. And I think a journal is going to really, 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 really help. Those are the 2 things I think that would help the most. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, how do we break the habitual use of rose-colored glasses? I find I am only really dealing with things in the hour of therapy, but I cannot break the pattern of always being okay in between. I just said this to my trauma therapist, Heroes Don't Wear Capes. You and I are like, we're like, I swear, we have so much in common. You often speak my thoughts. I just got done telling my trauma therapist that I sort of like muscle it out and pretend I'm okay between treatments, between appointments sometimes. And that I really want to be in a place where I'm actually utilizing the days in between when I see her as processing days, that I can actually work through things. And so again, like interestingly, she shared with me that it would be really helpful for me to journal. It'd be really, really helpful for me to practice intentional self-care on a daily basis, which I've started doing, and I'm recording it. I'm doing videos and I'm sharing it with you all online. And just being real with myself, not trying to pretend that I'm okay, not trying to just like muscle through or pretend I'm okay for my husband. I need to be honest with myself and honest with others, and that's what's helping. So I hope that helps you. Heroes Don't Wear Capes. Desi Pink says, does dissociation delay recovery? Like if I feel overwhelmed and I take a few days to myself before dealing with the world again, will this delay healing? Desi, so I think on the worksheet, I forgot to shrink it back to normal size so you all could screenshot it, but you could just rewind the video and screenshot it because I have the whole thing showing for a couple seconds. You could pause and like screenshot. So I feel like we covered a little bit of this on the screen share. I think it can delay you a little bit, but I also think it can help us. As long as we are not mindlessly dissociating and not catching ourselves, like a lot of people have Fitbits, and I have a colleague of mine that tends to dissociate a lot. And what she has done is she put a little reminder on her Fitbit to vibrate like every 15 minutes, just as a check-in, like how am I feeling in my body? Am I dissociating? How am I feeling in my body? Am I dissociating? How am I doing? You know, and then I've shared with you guys also previously, Desi Pink, that I have very predictable dissociative episodes, like every time I shower, because so many horrible things throughout the course of my lifetime, not just in childhood, have happened in the bathroom. Like it is absolutely horrifying. If I were to just list everything for you guys, you would probably run for the hills and like never come back, because you would be like, it would like stain your brain. Seriously. Horrible things happen in the bathroom. So and specifically the shower. And so I think that dissociation can help you, Desi Pink. And then I also think dissociation it's that double-edged sword, right? So I think as long as you're mindful of when you're dissociating and you're honest with yourself, like I am going to sit here for 15 or 20 minutes and I'm going to binge watch these comedy videos because I need this right now. And then I'm going to just adult for a while because I need to adult today. You know, as long as you're honest with yourself and you're not fooling yourself or lying to yourself, I don't think you can go wrong with dissociation. If it's something you're not in control of and that it's coming on out of nowhere, but like here you say, if I feel overwhelmed and I take a few days to myself before dealing with the world again, like that's intentional. What you've described here, Desi Pink, is a radical act of self-care, and I'm sending you massive high fives because not everybody can do that. So go you. I think you're doing everything right. So Guayana says, my son has this episode of doing things and not remembering. Even the proof is there. My wife sometimes has something like this. Is this dissociation? How can I help him? So this could be dissociation, Guayanes, if they're doing something and they don't remember it, or someone is saying, don't you remember you were there? I can't believe you don't remember, but you were there. That could be dissociation. And I'd say the first thing that you should do, Guayanes, depending on how old your son is or how old your wife is, I would talk to a doctor about it, but only if that person is trauma informed and they understand what's going on with trauma, or come in there with printed worksheets of like these are the symptoms and this is trauma and this is what I'm talking about. But, you know, there are some things that could really help if you don't want to if you don't have access to a doctor right away. You know, you can, there is Guayanas, if you go on Pinterest, There's an app called Pinterest. And if you type in the word mindfulness, you will have a ton, like hundreds, probably thousands of things come up on Pinterest on mindfulness. And it would be really wonderful for your son and your wife to just sort of look into some mindfulness practices. Mindfulness practices can be very helpful for those who tend to dissociate. I'm not diagnosing, I'm not a doctor. I'm just protecting myself by saying this out loud. But mindfulness can really, really, really help if your wife and your son are not already in a daily practice of mindfulness, because it can make a world of difference. There might not be anything even wrong with them. They're just in the habit of dissociating. Remember, one of the things that was on the con side of the list is that it can become a habit. You could just have a habit of sort of checking out. Like my son, for instance, when he was younger, he had a habit, like my son right there, right there. He had a habit when he was younger of just sort of checking out while he was playing his video game. He was just a bajillion miles away. He was nowhere to be found. Like I'd be like, hey, da 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 da, and like a few minutes later, he'd be like, what? And I'm like, you mean you didn't hear me? It was like a few minutes ago, you know, because he would just check out. Was he traumatized? Maybe, or maybe it was just his habit of dissociating. Maybe that was just his self-care. That's how he wanted to spend his time, you know? So mindfulness practice could be very, very helpful. Like it wouldn't hurt for sure. Marilena Diaz says, is it normal to dissociate at any age? Normal is a setting on a washing machine. Ha ha ha, where's my canned humor? Like that was a joke, Marilena. I would say that it is natural and common for people to dissociate. Anyone in the whole wide world, it is common for them to dissociate if they're doing something repetitive that they don't need to be fully present for. Remember, our brain is the one that tells us whether or not we need to be fully present. And so, for instance, there's one tunnel on the whole island that I live on. And when I'm driving, sometimes I will look around and go, did I already go through the tunnel? I can't believe I don't remember going through the tunnel. I was like on autopilot. Or have you? I know you have. You right there. I see you. You've driven and been like, I can't believe I already went past all those off ramps. Like, I don't even remember the off ramps. I'm already here on my off ramp. It's already time for me to get off the freeway. You know, like that's dissociation. So I would say that it is common for almost anyone to dissociate. Now, the level of dissociation, we're talking about dissociation as a result of childhood trauma and neglect. If we're not mindful and we don't address it and call it what it is, it's not just, oh, we're just practicing self-care, which it can be. Like Desi Pink said, Desi Pink takes a few days to deal with some stuff because that's what works. But if we are like specifically not dealing and we're dissociating, regardless of what age we are, we need to look into that if it becomes something that we're not aware of. If we're not aware of it, we need to be mindful and try to become aware of it. And if trauma memories of abuse come up, it's important to journal them, and it's important to make sure that you're taking care of your body. And I know I say this sometimes and you all roll your eyes at me and you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it again. You're going to need to drink a lot of water. A lot of water. Like this is, I have like 4 or 5 of these a day, maybe more. This is a lot of ounces, you guys. It's like 30 ounces, 20, almost 30 ounces. Several of these a day. You need to eat green leafy vegetables so that your body is nourished and has what it needs. If you don't take a B complex vitamin, B complex vitamins help us deal with stress and deal with environmental things and deal with stuff, right? Regardless of your diet. Like, don't do what I say if you're on a specific diet, and you always check with your doctor before you do anything that I tell you to do. However, if you drink a lot of water, you eat dark green leafy vegetables, you're taking a B complex vitamin, you're getting extra rest, and you're checking in with yourself, you're journaling, or you're being honest with yourself, things are going to get a lot better. It's going to be good for you. Seriously. But we need to give our body what it needs to be healthy and to heal, right? Okay. So Poppy says, if our go-to defense is dissociation, is it always connected to our stress response or nervous system? How do you calm it down when it fires off all the time? Not always, when you're not always in a threat. So If dissociation is our go-to defense, then we need to reevaluate other things we can do to take care of ourselves. How can we tolerate the stress in our lives? How can we tolerate being fully present in our bodies? How many minutes a day can we tolerate being fully present in our bodies? If you're in a dangerous situation, Poppy, then it might be common and natural for you to be in a dissociated state often if you're still in the midst of a trauma situation. But the way we calm it down, as you worded so perfectly, calm it down, is by making choices in our life that are for our best interests so that our subconscious knows that we're okay. Our subconscious needs to know that we have the ability to create safety in our lives and the ability to develop healthy relationships and make healthy choices. My trauma therapist reminds me all the time, remember, if your safety is not in question, how would you proceed? If you're stressed out or you're having a panic attack, Athena, remind yourself and say to yourself, knowing my safety is not in question, how would I proceed? Now you got to check and make sure, is your safety in question? If not, we need to make adjustments in our life to make sure that we have safety. Another thing with a lot of trauma survivors is worth. Another thing my trauma therapist says to me is something to remind myself, knowing my worth is not in question, how would I proceed? As long as my subconscious knows that I feel worthy and that I am safe, then the rest of the world just, it becomes a lot less traumatizing. And it takes some time before we can, none of this happened overnight, y'all. Again, healing for 17 or 18 years, the bulk of which has been in the last 4 years, and the most transformational has been in the last 1 year. So please be patient with yourselves. Don't do the comparison game. Why is Athena farther along in her journey than I've been healing for this many years? I've been healing for 30 years. And why is she already there at 17? We can't do that. Like we gotta run our own race. We gotta follow our own path. We have to honor our own bodies and take care of our own recovery journey and make sure that we're focused only on our own recovery journey and not comparing ourselves to anybody else, because that is one of the things that will derail you and cause you to feel unsafe in your own body. So I'd say one of the best ways to calm it down, Poppy, is to find ways to assure yourself that you are worthy, you are enough, you are safe. Find ways to feel safe and worthy. And that will calm down your dissociation for sure. I hope that was helpful. Ashton says, are there different types and kinds of dissociation? I'm so happy you asked that. I think that's the topic for next week. Ashton, high five. We're gonna talk about different levels of dissociation, different types of dissociation, why dissociation shows up in our life in different ways next week, because that's kind of a big topic, not big topic, but it deserves a video dedicated to it, because not everybody dissociates the same way and to the same degree and to the same, for the same reasons. So we need to do a video, Ashton. I hope that's okay. I hope you can come back next week or watch the replay. And lastly, Lynn says, relationships. I'm ready to let go of this part of my personality. Yes, I've been accepting controlling relationships all my life. I'm finding it hard to release this comfort of dissociation. So dissociation can lull us into a very comfortable place where it becomes the way we cope with the world. I used to dissociate with a glass of wine. I'm laughing now because I think about it and I'm like, how did I not know that that's what I was doing? Hello. But I was. And I just wasn't fully present. It wasn't necessarily the alcohol, because it was just a glass of wine. I wasn't blacking out. I wasn't in a stupor. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't making a fool of myself. I wasn't abusing alcohol, but I was dissociating. And I was choosing to dissociate with a glass of wine with my husband every night of the week. We'd be like, okay, we're done working. I'm done recording. I'm done editing. I'm done doing this. I'm done with that. I'm done with work. And he's like, I'm home. I'm not at work anymore. And boom, we would be having a glass of wine, watching the sunset. And we would just be a bajillion miles away. And it was a hard decision, I think, maybe for a while. And then one day, all of a sudden, it wasn't hard anymore. So my answer to you, Lynn, is I accepted controlling relationships in my life for a really long time too. And then the way I was dealing with them was I was dissociating with a glass of wine with my husband every night. So interestingly, ironically, when I decided one day that I was just going to like stop drinking wine, all of a sudden I had less controlling people in my life. I wasn't dissociating my way through life anymore. And I began to tolerate less controlling people in my life. I was like, no and no. And I just started standing up for myself more. So I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. Is it that I quit drinking wine and so controlling people decided to leave my life because I wasn't tolerating them anymore? Or was I deciding that I didn't want the controlling people in my life anymore? And I also just decided at the same time that I was going to stop drinking wine. I don't know which came first. I want to say that I was like, I think I just won't drink wine anymore. So now I just have like sparkling water or Perrier or Pellegrino or, like Crystal Geyser, like just one of those like sparkling, like caffeine free, sugar free, like just sparkling water, mineral water. and I order that wherever I go. If go to a 5-star restaurant or I'm at a fancy hotel or anywhere, it doesn't matter where I'm at, I'll order sparkling wine or sparkling water instead of wine. And if I'm like happen to be sitting at a bar with my husband and having appetizers and he's ordering a beer and they don't have sparkling water because they're a bar, then I'll say, you have any club soda? And they're like, yeah, you want club soda on the rock? I'm like, I don't want it on the rocks. Like I would just like club soda, like just like in a wine glass, maybe like a fancy wine glass. And so they bring you like this clunky, thick, not fancy wine glass because you're at a bar. And so I'll have club soda and my husband will have a beer. Or if I'm out somewhere and they're serving wine, like I'll bring my own bottle of sparkling water. And I've just decided to be more fully present in my body. And it's been a couple years now. And it's probably why my healing journey has catapulted a lot in the last year or two, because I don't know, like I think I've decided that I just want to I can do this. But if I do need to dissociate, I will pull up some YouTube videos from some of my favorite YouTubers on like how to play the ukulele, how to play the guitar, how to play my keyboard, the piano, or I'll watch dry bar comedy, or I'll watch some different videos on like neurolinguistic programming or neuroscience or neuroplasticity, or I'll watch Dan Siegel or Peter Levine or Bessel. Bessel's hard to understand though. I'd rather read Bessel than try to listen to him because he's just difficult to understand sometimes. He mumbles. So I hope that was helpful, you all. I know that we're about 10 minutes over, so I want to be respectful of your time. But next week, we are going to highlight Ashton's question, and we're going to talk about the different types of, different kinds of, different aspects of, different ways people dissociate. And that's going to be the topic for next week. So I hope this has been helpful. I value each and every one of you. Thanks for giving this video a thumbs up if it was helpful for you. If it wasn't, feel free to give it a thumbs down. It's all good, but don't give it a thumbs down just because you want to be mean to me, because you're not really helping anybody and you're robbing other people of finding the video in their suggested feed. Thanks for all of the support that you guys give one another over in the chat box. Thanks for any comments you leave down below in the video. I'll do my best to address as many of them as I possibly can. Again, if you're not in a free support group and you want to be, they're all over on Facebook, and all you have to do is email lisa@cptsdfoundation.org. If you have topic suggestions, you can send them to me, info@cptsdfoundation.org. Or if you are looking for daily recovery support by way of daily calls that are live with a whole bunch of other awesome, amazing people like you, then go to cptsdfoundation.org and find a button somewhere that says daily calls. And otherwise, I'll just see you back here every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Special thank you to Poppy for volunteering and putting all the crisis information out there into the world so that we can prevent suicide and help other people. And special thank you to Matt for moderating all of the chat and keeping the trolls away, especially the potato trolls. And yeah, you guys are the best. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of your life. I consider it an honor, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye, everybody.